Hand phones, Babylons can't crack the code.
Every day, we get closer and closer to the start of the 2022 college football season. And with spring ball being officially done for everyone across the nation, summer ball is about to begin. And with that being said, it's officially prediction season. Yes, people have been predicting stuff for the season, the entire offseason since the national championship has concluded. But now you're going to start seeing it a lot, and you're going to start seeing some more serious predictions, and not just some predictions to get some reactions or some clicks on the internet. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about 5 sleeper teams in the 2022 season. These are teams that I'm not saying they're going to win their conference, but they're teams I think can shock some people in some ways in 2022. Now, before I move on with the video, remember to smash that like button and subscribe if you haven't already, as we are on the road to 10K. Now let's get into it. The first team I'm going to be talking about in today's video that I think could shock some people in some ways in 2022 is BYU. BYU is coming off a 2021 campaign in which they went 10-3, and their only 3 losses were to Boise State, Baylor, and UAB in the Independence Bowl. Now, that team going into the season for 2021 was not exactly returning the most production from their dominant 2020 season. BYU making that transition from 2020 to 2021 with as much production as they lost, they had a really good season, a 10-win season, which was honestly better than some people thought they were going to have because of who they lost from that team. But that just really shows you how good of a coach team BYU is and how good their depth actually is as well. Now, when looking at BYU for 2022, you know how I said they returned some of the lowest amount of production going into 2021? Well, going into 2022, they returned the second most production in college football, returning 80% of their production on offense and 97% of their production on defense, which is the most in the nation. When looking at their 2022 schedule, they play USF, Baylor, Oregon, Wyoming, Utah State, Notre Dame, Arkansas, Liberty, East Carolina, Boise State, Dixie State, and Stanford. Now, this is not exactly the easiest schedule, and when I say this next part, I'm not saying it's going to actually happen. But with this schedule, it could actually help BYU get serious playoff contention hopes if they win a lot of those games. Now, they could go undefeated, and they could be in serious position to be a playoff team because facing teams like Stanford, Boise State, Arkansas, Notre Dame, Oregon, and Baylor is not going to be easy by any means. Looking at the next team that I have North Carolina State. North Carolina State is coming off a 2021 campaign in which they went 9-3. Their only 3 losses on the season were to Mississippi State, Wake Forest, and Miami. Now, when looking at their losses, their biggest loss was by 14 points in the beginning of the season at Mississippi State. But the other 2 losses to Wake Forest and Miami were by 1 possession or less. They lost to Miami by 1 point, and they lost to Wake Forest by 3. When looking at the returning production for North Carolina State from last year's team to this year's current squad, it currently ranks number 12 in the nation, as they're bringing back 75% of their offense and a total of 88% of their defense for 2022, which is top 10 in the nation for returning production on the defensive side of the ball. In 2022, NC State will play East Carolina, Charleston Southern, Texas Tech, UConn, Clemson, Florida State, Syracuse, Virginia Tech, Wake Forest, Boston College, Louisville, and North Carolina. Now, when looking at the schedule and knowing the kind of team North Carolina State is, they're going to be in real contention for that ACC championship game. They got the people to do it, and they have the squad to do it, but it really just depends if they can put it all together for the full season. And if they're contending for the ACC and they have a really good record, don't be surprised if they get some playoff talk if they have a very good record near the end of the season. On to the next team that I have as possibly being a surprising team in 2022. It is none other than Tennessee. Tennessee is coming off a 2021 campaign in which going into the season, many people wrote them off, as some people were iffy on the Heupel hire. They had some star players leave to the transfer portal. They had that one recruiting investigation going on during the offseason, and overall it just seemed like the program wasn't exactly in the best state. But they did prove a lot of people wrong in 2021, as they had a solid season in which they went 7-6, their only losses being to Pitt, Florida, Ole Miss, Alabama, Georgia, and Purdue. And although you may be thinking 7-6 is a mediocre record, compared to the last few seasons for Tennessee football, this team seemed like they were a lot better as a whole. When looking at returning production for Tennessee football going into 2022, they are returning the 34th best returning production from 2021 to 2022, as they're returning 80% of their offense and a total of 68% on their defense. In 2022, Tennessee will play Ball State, Pitt, Akron, Florida, LSU, Alabama, UT Martin, Kentucky, Georgia, Missouri, South Carolina, and Vanderbilt. Now, my thoughts on Tennessee football for 2022 is that I think they're going to be better than last season, and I think they're going to be overall a really good team. But I do know they play in the SEC, and they play some really tough teams. So Tennessee is going to be a better team than their record is probably going to show. On to the next team, I'm going to be sticking with the SEC, and actually the same SEC East Division, this time with South Carolina. South Carolina is coming off a 2021 campaign in which they went 7-6. They lost to teams like Georgia, Kentucky, Tennessee, Missouri, and Clemson. Now, they played a lot better than people thought they were going to be in 2021, as not many people actually thought South Carolina was going to make a bowl game in that season, but they actually played a lot better than people thought they were going to play, even with the quarterback spot that they had, where a lot of different players were playing quarterback in the season. When looking at the returning production side of things for South Carolina, out of all the teams in my video, they actually returned the least amount. But they still return a pretty good amount, as they are returning the 37th most in the nation, returning 82% of their offense and 65% of their defense. In 2022, they will play Georgia State, Arkansas, Georgia, Charlotte, South Carolina State, Kentucky, Texas A&M, Missouri, Vanderbilt, Florida, Tennessee, and Clemson. When I see South Carolina in 2022, I think they're going to be a lot better than 2021. And the main reason for this is because they've had a really good offseason, but they have Spencer Rattler at quarterback. And yes, I understand a lot of people out there don't think Spencer Rattler is very good at all, and they overall just hate Spencer Rattler a lot. But let's be real, guys. Like, be real for a second. Who on that team last year at the quarterback position is better than Spencer Rattler? South Carolina hasn't had a quarterback like Spencer Rattler in a very long time, and I think it's going to be very interesting to see how South Carolina is going to be with a quarterback of Spencer Rattler's caliber. On to the final team that I'm going to be talking about in today's video. It is none other than Central Florida. Central Florida is coming off a 2021 campaign in which they lost to Louisville, Navy, Cincinnati, and SMU. This team went 9-4 overall, and they finished off the season with a win that should build some momentum for them going into the 2022 campaign, in which they beat Florida 29-17. When talking about returning production for UCF, they have some of the most in the nation, as they're number 19 in total. They're returning 77% of their offense and 81% of their defense. In 2022, the Central Florida Golden Knights will end up taking on South Carolina State, Louisville, Florida Atlantic, Georgia Tech, SMU, Temple, East Carolina, Cincinnati, Memphis, Tulane, Navy, and USF. When I see UCF in 2022, I acknowledge that they've had a very good transfer portal class this year and a very good offseason overall, and it's going to be year 2 under their new football staff that they have. And I feel like they're going to be a lot better of a team than they were last season. They were not a bad team by any means last year, but a few of their losses that they had were, well, to put it simply, pretty ugly losses. And I think they're going to clean up a lot of things in 2022 and potentially, just potentially, might even win the conference. Now, I'm not saying they will, but I feel like they're definitely going to be one of the top teams. Well, guys, now that I'm at the end of the video, drop something down in the comment section below. What are teams you think are going to shock some people in 2022? And before you head out, remember to smash that like button, turn on those post notifications, and subscribe if you haven't already. Be Kelly out.